Since you talked about competition, and I remember, and I had this book here in my hand, your chapter clearly stuck with me, and this was a couple of years ago that I read it. And in 2011, that's when you've been interviewed in the book, you talked about how the competitive landscape could possibly be Amazon, Apple, Hulu, etc. How do you see the competitive landscape today? I know that you truly believe that sleep is your only competition, but outside of that, with the possibility of Apple now getting into streaming, with the possibility of Facebook doing exactly the same thing, Amazon is already there, they're here in India as well. What does the competitive landscape look like to you?
It varies by country. Hotstar's doing a great job here in India. They're leading in the SVOD, the subscription internet category. There's a lot of other companies, like you say, the global internet companies, YouTube and Facebook. There's us, Amazon, Apple. So there's many competitors, the traditional media companies and all of the internet sector. And what's that doing is everybody bidding for content to have the most valuable content. So the prices now for creators are increasing, and there's more shows and movies getting produced than ever before.
So if it's going to be about original content, it's also then going to be linked, I would imagine, to more flexibility when it comes to pricing plans, because that's what we're seeing happen, at least in markets like India. So are you going to be forced to maybe be much more competitive on the pricing side as well?
Netflix is only 500 rupees a month here, which is consistent with our global pricing.
Amazon is that much for a year, I believe.
They are, but they don't have our shows. So they have some content, and then there's lots of stuff on YouTube for free. So think of it as, there's free content, there's cheap content, and then what we try to do is have great content, have, very unique shows with very special things, and to make it easy to subscribe and join.
As you continue to build operations, as you continue to build the culture at Netflix, and I know that you have this 7 and 9 matrix. There are 7 values and then 9 skills that you rely on to continue to sort of nurture this culture. How important is it going to be to ensure that there is consistency across all of these different markets that you operate in, that the Netflix culture that you established in the US is in fact imported or transported across these different countries? And how is it going to work?
Well, the great thing about the Netflix culture is it's always improving. We're trying to get better, and one of the ways that we're getting better is being more global. So everything from how we schedule meetings to how we write up results so people can read them, at different times, because now we're operating around the world. So we don't look at it as, let's take the California culture and make sure that that's the same culture around the world. We want our culture to get better, to be more reflective of the whole world. And every time we open in a country, every time we get great employees to join from around the world, we adjust the culture and we try to learn from them some of the great lessons.
So what are the lessons that India has taught you? You're a very recent entrant into India, but I don't know, do you watch any Bollywood? Have you watched any Bollywood movies? What is the Indian culture
I'd say I've never completed a whole Bollywood movie.
No?
So I've watched a number of them, and I'm not yet. I don't quite get the subtlety of what I'm watching. But it's really quite fascinating to see, the breadth of entertainment and how that works. We're adding more shows all the time.
What sets you apart as an entrepreneur? I mean, I speak with many global CEOs, and I think the one common thread, if I could link everyone together, is they're not doing it for the money. There is a higher purpose. In your case, it's democratizing entertainment. What continues to drive you?
Yeah, it's the global aspect of what we're doing. We were so long just in the U.S., 15 years only as a domestic business. And it's just so great to now be able to travel the world and share these stories with everyone. So I would say it's really about having this global storytelling.
So outside of global storytelling, for a young entrepreneur who might be watching this show, what is it that you would tell them? I remember you said that you need to be an aspirin and not a vitamin because you need to address a specific need. For somebody who's actually getting started today, what would the Reed Hastings do's and don'ts be?
I didn't really set out to be an entrepreneur. There was some ideas that I was excited about.
You taught geometry and algebra as well, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I was a high school math teacher. And so it was some ideas that I got so excited about that I had to build a company to see the idea through. So I think if you start with the idea first and the company second, that's probably a good approach.
Okay. as you see the world today, there's this business of responsibility and freedom that you talk about in the context of the Netflix culture, but then there's a lot of strife around us today, whether it's political, there's geopolitical tensions and risks. What concerns you? What are the challenges that you would be worried about as an entrepreneur with global operations today?
Well, around the world it is a fractious time, but if you compare it to the last 500 years or the last 10,000 years, it's been incredibly steady progress. And so I'm very optimistic, even if in the short term, we may have some hiccups here or there, that people are learning how to work well together around the world. In every 100 years, it's significantly better than it was 100 years ago. It's just we can't say that every year it's better than it was last year.
You can say that about your quarterly earnings, though, can't you?
Hopefully, and so far, that's true. That's right.
So what is the target then as far as Netflix is concerned? I mean, where do you see the company over the next few years?
Well, we would like to just make progress on entertaining everyone around the world. Everyone's going to be on the internet. We'd like everyone to have access to Netflix shows and movies.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck with your plans here in India, and we wish you the very best of luck with everything that you do decide to do. Thanks very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Shereen.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this episode of Lessons in Leadership. From all of us here, goodbye, and many thanks for watching.